Imagine the most powerful monarch in the world, the sovereign of the United Kingdom, traveling through their own capital city. The motorcade approaches a specific boundary, marked by silver dragons holding a red cross. The king's vehicle stops. He cannot simply drive through. He must wait. A man dressed in medieval red robes and a gold chain approaches the sovereign. This man holds a pearl-encrusted sword. In a ceremony older than Parliament itself, the King of England must wait to be recognized, must wait to be permitted to enter a territory that exists entirely within his own country. This is not a piece of historical theater. It is a manifestation of raw, unspoken power. The sovereign is submitting to the ultimate authority of a place that most people think is just a neighborhood. But it is not a neighborhood. It is an independent corporate state operating inside the borders of a sovereign democracy. Welcome to the Square Mile. Welcome to the City of London. You have been told that London is a global capital. You have seen the mayor on television. But the mayor you see on the news, the mayor of London, has absolutely no jurisdiction over the true beating heart of global finance. There is a second mayor, a hidden mayor, the Lord Mayor of the City of London. And to understand how half of the world's dark money, shadow banking, and offshore wealth is legally permitted to exist, you must understand the difference between these two men. Because one is a politician, the other is the CEO of the most powerful financial syndicate on the face of the earth. To understand the magnitude of this system, you must first look at the map. In the center of Greater London, there is a tiny enclave, exactly 1 square mile in size. It is home to just a few thousand residents, but hundreds of thousands of financial workers commute there every single day. This is the City of London Corporation. It is the oldest continuous local government in the world, older than the United Kingdom, older than the Magna Carta. When William the Conqueror invaded England in 1066, he conquered the entire country, but he did not conquer the City of London. He negotiated with it. He signed a treaty granting them special privileges. And for 1,000 years, every king, queen, and prime minister has had to do exactly the same thing. They do not rule the city. They accommodate it. This ancient independence has mutated into something entirely unprecedented in the modern world. It has become a legal fortress. Let us examine the voting system of this fortress. In any normal democracy, one person gets one vote. But the City of London is not a democracy, it is a plutocracy. Inside the Square Mile, multinational banks, hedge funds, and corporate entities are given the right to vote. Let that sink in. Corporations cast ballots, and it is not equal. The number of votes a corporation receives is directly tied to the number of people it employs within the city. The bigger the bank, the more votes it controls. They elect the local government. They elect the Court of Common Council, and ultimately they elect the Lord Mayor. This means the government of the City of London is literally chosen by, funded by, and operates exclusively for the benefit of the global financial elite. It is a private government for the banking sector. But how does a tiny corporate state protect its trillion-dollar interests from the actual government of the United Kingdom? How do they ensure that the democratic parliament sitting just a few miles down the River Thames does not pass laws that regulate their wealth? They do it through a ghost in the machine, a figure known as the Remembrancer. If you look closely at the floor plan of the House of Commons, the center of British democracy, there is a special seat located directly behind the Speaker's chair. This seat does not belong to an elected member of Parliament. It does not belong to a government official. It belongs to the Remembrancer. The Remembrancer is the official lobbyist for the City of London Corporation. They are legally entitled to sit inside Parliament. They physically observe the drafting of legislation. They scrutinize every single financial bill, every tax proposal, every regulatory framework before it is ever voted on. Their job, simply put, is to remember the rights of the city and to ensure that no law is ever passed that threatens the sovereign wealth generated within the Square Mile. Imagine if Wall Street had a permanent, legally mandated agent sitting inside the US Congress, rewriting laws in real time to protect their trading desks. In the United Kingdom, this is not a conspiracy theory, it is constitutional fact. And this invisible shield of protection is exactly why the City of London has become the epicenter of the global shadow economy. To understand the sheer scale of the money flowing through this 1 square mile, we have to look back to the 1950s. The Cold War was escalating. The Soviet Union had a problem. They held massive reserves of United States dollars, but they were terrified of keeping those dollars in American banks. If the Cold War turned hot, the US government would instantly freeze and seize their assets. They needed a place to hide their dollars, a place that was outside the jurisdiction of the American government, but sophisticated enough to handle massive financial transactions. The Bank of England, operating in tandem with the City of London, saw an opportunity. They offered to take the Soviet dollars. But they did something entirely revolutionary. They promised not to regulate them. They treated these dollars as if they were a foreign entity entirely outside the British legal system. This was the birth of the Eurodollar market. It was a massive pool of offshore money operating onshore. It was money without a country, unregulated, untaxed, and completely hidden from the authorities of the currency's origin. The creation of the Eurodollar market transformed the City of London from a declining imperial capital into the supreme offshore tax haven of the modern world. American banks realized that if they moved their operations to the City of London, they could trade without the suffocating regulations of the SEC or the Federal Reserve. Trillions of dollars flooded across the Atlantic. Today, the Eurodollar market is the foundation of the shadow banking system, a vast unregulated network of derivatives, currency swaps, and dark pools that controls the global economy. And the control panel for this entirely unregulated market sits squarely within the jurisdiction of the City of London Corporation. But the square mile is just the center of the spider web. To truly obscure the origins of dark money, the city needed a network, and so they utilized the remnants of the British Empire. The City of London serves as the nerve center for a sprawling network of British overseas territories and crown dependencies. The Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, Jersey, Guernsey. These are not just tropical islands. They are secrecy jurisdictions. They are legal vacuums where corporate ownership is hidden behind impenetrable layers of shell companies and trust funds. When an oligarch, a cartel boss, or a corrupt politician wants to hide billions of dollars, they do not fly to London with a suitcase of cash. They wire the money to a shell company in the British Virgin Islands. From there, it is transferred to a trust in the Cayman Islands. And then, through the magic of legal loopholes, that money is funneled directly into the trading desks of the City of London. Because these islands are British territories, the money never actually leaves the systemic control of the UK, but because they are legally distinct jurisdictions, the money is completely immune from taxation and regulatory scrutiny. The City of London Corporation acts as the great launderer, taking the dirty money of the world, passing it through its offshore network, and turning it into clean, untraceable assets on the global stock markets. This is why 50% of the world's cross-border wealth revolves around this system. It is not because London has the smartest bankers. It is because the City of London offers a product that no other place on earth can offer: legal immunity. The flexibility of its laws, protected by the Remembrancer and enshrined by 1,000 years of royal treaties, creates an environment where capital is supreme. In the city, capital is not just a tool, it is the law itself. Look at the architecture of the square mile. You will see ancient medieval guild halls sitting in the shadow of towering glass skyscrapers. This is the perfect visual representation of how the city operates. It uses the pageantry and tradition of the past to legitimize the ruthlessness of the future. The livery companies, the ancient guilds of goldsmiths and mercers, still exist. They still participate in the election of the Lord Mayor. It looks like a living museum. But behind those closed doors, in the private dining rooms of the guild halls, the true architects of the global economy are deciding the fate of national currencies. The Mayor of London, the politician elected by the people, struggles to fund public transport and housing. Meanwhile, the Lord Mayor of the City of London travels the globe as a head of state, meeting with prime ministers and presidents representing the interests of the financial syndicate that elected him. The British public believes they live in a democracy governed by the Parliament in Westminster, but the financial reality of the country is dictated by the unelected, corporate-run state located just down the river. This system was not created by accident. It is the result of centuries of deliberate, strategic accumulation of power. Every time the British government attempted to reign in the city threatened to move its capital elsewhere. And because the city controls the financial lifeblood of the nation, the government always backs down. It is a hostage situation where the hostage taker owns the bank. We are taught to fear dark money. We are taught to look for it in the shadows, in secret Swiss bank accounts or hidden crypto wallets. But the truth is much more terrifying. The greatest engine of dark money in human history operates in broad daylight. It operates with the blessing of the monarch. It operates with a legal representative sitting inside the very parliament that is supposed to regulate it. The next time you hear about a massive financial crash, a sudden collapse of a currency, or a $1 trillion transfer of wealth, do not look to the politicians. Look to the square mile of land guarded by silver dragons. Look to the corporations that cast votes. Look to the man in the red robes who forces a king to wait. Empires rise and fall. Governments are elected and dismantled. But the City of London Corporation remains untouchable, unregulated, and quietly holding the financial fate of the world in its hands.